All right, let's talk about something I think a lot of us have wondered about. What is the real difference between being stubborn and being a smart, independent thinker? There's a fine line there, right? Well, today, we're gonna find it.
So picture this. You're in a meeting, maybe it's a family discussion, and everyone seems to be jumping on the same bandwagon. But something just doesn't sit right with you. So you start asking questions, poking a few holes, and then you see it. You get that look, the one that says, oh, here we go again. Why do you have to be so difficult?
I'm willing to bet this sounds familiar. That moment when you're just trying to understand something fully, and your caution gets labeled as stubbornness. It's frustrating, right? It can even make you second-guess yourself. But here's the thing. What if that label is missing the point completely?
This really breaks it down beautifully. On one side, you have stubbornness, and a lot of the time that's driven by emotion, right? A gut feeling, a desire to stay in a comfort zone. It kind of closes the mind off. But then on the other side, you've got independent thinking, and that's driven by pure logic. An independent thinker's mind isn't closed at all, but it has a very high bar for entry. You can't change it with popular opinion. You have to bring a better argument. You need new, sound logic.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating. We've been trained to see these things as personality traits. You're either a stubborn person or you're a flexible person. But what if that's the wrong way to look at it entirely? What if it's not about your personality? The sources we're looking at for this explainer suggest something much deeper is going on.
The whole issue might not be your attitude, but the actual architecture of your mind. So let's dive into a completely new framework that reframes this entire conversation from the ground up.
And here's the crucial point. Your tendency to question things, to demand real evidence, it's probably not a personality quirk designed to annoy everyone around you. It's a sign of a very specific, and actually a very powerful way of processing information.
And here's the term for it: independent cognitive processing. Okay, that's a bit of a mouthful, but what it really means is that your brain is wired to prioritize logical consistency and hard evidence above everything else. For a brain that works this way, social proof, the fact that everybody else agrees, it just doesn't compute as a valid reason to believe something. It's like your mind is running on a different operating system.
This quote just nails it. It really boils everything down to a simple but profound shift in what you value. For someone with this cognitive style, an idea's popularity is, well, it's just an interesting data point. It's not proof. The real proof, the only thing that actually matters, is in the logic.
So, what does this independent cognitive processing actually look like in the real world? How does it show up day to day? The source material we're drawing from here lists 6 different signs, but when you really dig into them, you see they all orbit around 3 core, deeply connected principles. So let's break down what those foundations are.
It all starts with having stronger than average critical thinking skills. That's step 1. And that naturally leads to step 2, demanding robust reasoning, not just from other people, but from yourself too. And both of these things are fueled by that foundational value we just talked about, prioritizing sound logic over what's popular or easy. You see, they're not separate things, they're like a chain reaction.
So let's zoom in on that first principle. Refusing to just blindly follow the herd isn't being stubborn, it's your critical thinking skills kicking into overdrive. You're not just a passive sponge for information. No, you are actively stress testing every idea that comes your way, looking for weak spots.
And this is what that actually looks like. You're the person in the room who doesn't just ask what, you ask why and how do we know for sure that's true? And you're not just a critic of other people's ideas, you are your own toughest critic. You're constantly trying to poke holes in your own logic. And you get that the world is complicated. You're okay with nuance, and you know the simplest answer isn't always the right one.
And that brings us right to the other 2 principles, because they are so deeply connected. Your demand for solid, robust reasoning. Well, that's a direct result of valuing logic more than you value popularity. It just makes sense, right? If social pressure isn't a good enough reason to believe something, then the only thing left is a sound, verifiable argument.
This chart just illustrates the hierarchy perfectly. For someone who's an independent cognitive processor, look at that bar for logical soundness. It's off the charts. That is what matters most. Popular opinion? It's a consideration, maybe. And social pressure to conform? As you can see, it barely even registers. The argument has to stand on its own 2 feet, period.
So, after all this, what does it mean for you? You, the person who's probably been called stubborn your whole life. It means it's time for a major reframe. It is time to start embracing this cognitive style for the powerful tool that it actually is.
I want you to really let this one sink in. Your brain's operating system isn't a bug, it's a feature. It is a cognitive strength that needs to be understood and used, not something you should try to suppress just to make other people feel more comfortable.
And just think about the big picture for a second. Every single major breakthrough in history, every great innovation, every time society has corrected a huge, foolish mistake, it was because somebody, somewhere, refused to just accept the status quo. Somebody had the courage to ask, why? Your way of thinking isn't just a personal quirk, it is a genuine engine for progress.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. The next time you find yourself standing apart from the group and you feel that pressure building to just give in and agree, what are you going to trust? The weight of their numbers or the strength of your own logic?